What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Royal Rebounds Podcast. We are here with myself, Calvin, and Barry. It feels a little weird to say that. Barry is on assignment tonight, so I will be your host for the evening. We are breaking down a huge Kings victory over the Portland Trail Blazers tonight, 125 to 121. This game was a barn burner from the beginning. Very, very frenetic, up and down pace. It got a little chippy there in the end. Kings didn't fix all of their problems, but we definitely needed this win tonight. Am I right, Barry? What happened? Barry?
I think I lost you, Cal.
He says he lost me. Can you hear me?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, sorry guys. Technical difficulties. That's what I haven't hosted the show before, so I apologize to all of you. Barry.
Kings needed this win in a big way tonight. Give me your first impressions after the game.
Well, two hard-fought games against the Portland Trail Blazers. You know, it seems like Davion Mitchell gets up to play these games. He loves playing against smaller guards. I was really surprised to see Marvin out there doing everything that he did tonight. I know Rashawn was a late scratch due to the eye injury we saw him suffer on Monday night. But just huge overall team performance, a crazy game, seeing a guy like Darren Fox get ejected, but just overall happy with the win.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there. This was a total team win. The Kings were already down Rashawn Holmes with being the late scratch before the game. Harrison Barnes exits the game in the third quarter with an apparent foot injury. We obviously hope that that's not going to be a lingering or a major injury where he misses a lot of time. And then Darren Fox gets ejected in a very critical point.
The Kings had just gone on a big 11-0 run to take the lead. And Darren really, we're going to talk about it, but he really could have put the Kings in a horrible spot with that ejection, but the team rallies behind him. They get huge contributions. They played pretty much the entire fourth quarter with the bench out there, aside from Tyrese Haliburton. And I guess, Mo Harkless did start this game, but he really has been much of a bench player as well. Just huge contributions from the bench. Damien Jones, big minutes. Marvin Bagley, a huge dagger three, as well as an and one put back there in the fourth quarter. Buddy Hield leads the team in scoring, 22 points. You want to go ahead and dive into the box score here while we're on it?
Yeah, I can jump here. So Harrison Barnes, 29 minutes tonight, 13 points. He did come out late with a foot injury. We hope he recovers very, very soon. 24 minutes tonight for Mo Harkless, 12 points. You and I had both talked about how when Mo Harkless scores 10 points, the Kings are a pretty good team and a very hard-to-beat team. Happy I saw that out of him tonight. Also a block for him as well. Alex Len, 17 big minutes starting tonight, 5 of 6 for the field, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a block. I loved what I saw out of Alex Len. He did a great job filling in for Rashawn Holmes. Darren Fox, 27 minutes tonight, 8 of 13 from the field, 21 points, and 33 minutes for Tyrus Haliburton tonight. Only 6 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, a block. He did a lot of things on the court tonight. I know he hasn't been scoring recently very much, but I'm happy with what I saw out of him. 10 big points for Marvin off the bench, including a very, very late three that was the dagger. Also some tip-ins, 8 big rebounds for him. And then, 16 points for Davion Mitchell, 6-11 from the field. Buddy Hield shot very well from three-point range tonight, 5 of 11, 22 big points.
The Kings got a lot of contributions from everybody out there. And this game started off really fast-paced, exactly like we had said it could. The Blazers love to get up and down. They've got those 2 guards who can score from anywhere on the court, really. Damian Lillard he didn't shoot well from 3 tonight, but he has been the same old Dame for the last 9 games or so. He's averaging 27 points per game in those last 9. He had another 32 tonight, 15 of 16 at the free throw line. Barry, he missed his first free throw since November 12th today in the fourth quarter. He had made 37 straight free throw attempts. The Kings, all of a sudden, after we had praised them for improving their foul shooting, they've reverted back to their ways of not being able to convert as well at the line. The Kings tonight got a season-high 34 attempts as the officials really called this one tight down the stretch. They only made 23 for 67%, though. Is this something that you think we should be worried about, that the Kings are going to revert back to their ways of not converting at the foul line going forward?
It's definitely possible. You know, you look at the history of this Kings team, they haven't been a good free throw shooting team for a while. Richaun Holmes is one of their best free throw shooters, and he was out tonight, unfortunately. So I expected the dip in the percentage, but I love them getting to the basket. I love them being aggressive. You know, 34 free throw attempts is huge. The Kings are going to win a lot of games if they can get to the line this much.
I agree completely. They were really
pressing to get into the paint again. You know, that's something that we continue to talk about as a major factor for this team. 60 points in the paint again. I don't have the exact stats on it, but I believe the Kings are undefeated when they score 60 points or more in the paint. So it was great to see them force the issue, just like we talked about in the keys to the game in our last podcast. If we want to review those real quick, my keys to the game going into the night were 1, take care of the ball, 2, shoot well, defensive plays. They finally did that tonight. They gave up a few wide open threes there in the fourth quarter. Norman Powell hit a couple. Dame missed a bunch of them, but the Kings were able to secure a lot of those rebounds. The rebounds were even tonight, 43 apiece. And for the first time in a while, from what I can remember, the Kings did not get out-rebounded on the offensive glass. 14 offensive rebounds for Sacramento to 13 for Portland. We talked about turnovers being critical. The Kings turned it over 14 times, which is not the greatest number. They only had 5 turnovers in the first half, though, and I believe their first turnover came with 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. So they did a great job in the first half of taking care of the basketball, and they shot much better from 3, 12 of 33 tonight for 36%. They hit on pretty much all these keys, right? And that's why they ended up pulling out the victory.
Yeah, you know, the 3-point percentage is where they really differentiated themselves from the Blazers tonight. And part of that could be blame on Dame Lillard. 3 of 12 from 3-point range for him. He hasn't shot well from 3-point range against the Kings this season, not making a single one in their first meeting. You know, rebounds were pretty steady. I think they were both tied at 43 rebounds. The Kings turned the ball over 14 times. The Blazers turned it over 15, so pretty even there. I think the real interesting thing with this game, like you mentioned, is points in the paint and how they were able to do that without starting center Richaun Holmes.
I agree completely. Damien Jones gave them huge minutes tonight. If you would have told me before this game started that Damien Jones would play the most minutes for the Kings at center, even after I learned that Richaun Holmes wasn't going to play tonight, I would have told you were crazy. But he really put his stamp on this game defensively. Obviously, Alex Len gets in foul trouble, so the Kings need to go to a different option. Tristan Thompson had been in the game, but as good of a defender as Tristan Thompson is, he really struggled with Nurkic's size and is just pure force in there. So they looked to Damien Jones to give him a spark, and he really came through big for them. He committed a few fouls early. You know, that was right in the middle of when this game was getting called extremely tight, in my opinion. I mean, there was a stretch there where anytime anyone put a hand on anyone, the whistle was going off. You know, you do see that pretty often in these games where there's technical fouls that are flying and it starts to get a little chippy. They typically start to call that game a little more tight. But Davion was getting whistled every time Dame drove to the basket. Nurkic, anytime he was trying to get position inside, it seemed like he was getting a call on either Damien Jones or Alex Len. So it was really great to see the Kings respond through all of that adversity, you know, losing Rashawn, losing Harrison. Darren Fox gets ejected. The guys, this bench, they never batted an eye. They never flinched. They came out. They stayed aggressive. They were ready when their name was called. Nobody was more ready maybe than Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, big game for Marvin Bagley. We finally saw him hitting some shots, including that dagger towards the end from three-point range. But one thing that I was really impressed about in this game was 8 for 13 for Darren Fox. I know we are talking about him getting ejected late in the game, something you never want to see happen from one of your star players, especially in kind of a stupid situation like that where he just can't keep control of his own emotions. But I think this is probably the most efficient game we've seen from him this season. I know the Kings gave up over 120 points, something that you and I had circled as a must-need. But they were able to score tonight. They were able to score efficiently, and they came away with a victory.
Yeah, we're taking a look here at the video right now. Darren getting ejected here. And I was really disappointed with him in this moment. You know, we already talked about how it was such a crucial moment of the game. Going into that fourth quarter there, I looked at our producer, Vinny, and I said, this game's going to come down to fourth quarter execution again. It was a tight game. Kings were up by 1 going into the fourth quarter. They came out really strong to start. Marvin Bagley was playing well. Darren Fox had a fantastic first half, as you touched on, with his efficiency, 19 points in the first half. He really looked like his old self to me in this game, both offensively and defensively. So I was so encouraged by that. But this is a moment here that Darren's got to get rid of going forward. If you're going to be the go-to guy on this team, the leader of this team, the guy everyone thinks that you're the best player, this ejection cannot happen. I understand that you're frustrated. That call probably was a bad call, but with the game being as close as it was, the fact that he didn't even have one technical yet, he got 2 technicals in the span of a minute, just standing there talking to the official, that could have really derailed this game here. I know Darren is going to be frustrated with himself afterwards, but I hope he gets some people in his ear to tell him, hey, man, that just cannot happen ever again.
Can't give a guy like Dame Lillard free points. Exactly. And that's exactly what you do when you're giving up, those kind of penalties. The dude's pretty much automatic, 15 to 16 tonight. Like you said, it's been a while since he missed one. When you give him an option or a chance to go to the bucket and get a free look, a free point, that only helps him get rolling.
Without a doubt. But enough with the negative. Let's stay on the positive here. We are Kings fans. We haven't seen a Kings win in a while. They snap a 4-game losing streak with this big win tonight. Welcome, everybody in the chat. Makami, I see you back here. DeBaby Daddy. Kristen A says she can shoot free throws over 80%, so the Kings should put her out there on the court. I would love to see that, Kristen. Who else we got in here? Jeff the Lefty. What's up, Jeff? How you guys doing? Make sure, if it's your first time or not to this channel, make sure you hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe to Royal Rebounds and join the Royal family with Barry and I. We put out fresh Kings content almost all the time. We're live after nearly every game. We have a weekly show called the Royal Report, which encapsulates the entire week. If you weren't able to watch all the games for the Kings, we debut it every Friday, and we can get you caught up in case you missed all the games. So thanks, you guys, for tuning in. All right, so Barry, I want to stick on this Darren Fox train here, not necessarily the ejection, because we've already touched on that. As I was watching this game, the first half, Fox looks great. He has 19 points. He's very efficient. Tyrus Haliburton, this is the second game in a row now where he really, scoring-wise, hasn't done much for Sacramento. 6 points tonight. He had 0 points the other night against Philadelphia, 0 of 5 from the floor. He does affect the game in so many different ways, as you've already mentioned. 6 assists tonight. He had 3 steals, a really big steal off an inbounds play there late in the fourth quarter. So he's definitely being a productive player for the Kings. But my question to you is, style of play seems to be such an important thing for this team. When De'Aaron is playing well, the ball is in his hands all the time. He's driving to the basket, he's getting mid-range shots, and when he's really playing well, he's hitting threes also. When Tyrese is playing really well, the ball is always in his hands. He's running pick and roll with Richaun Holmes. He's dropping it off to these big guys. He's kicking it out to guys like Mo Harkless, even Marvin Bagley tonight for corner threes. So my question to you is, what style of play do you think is best for this team moving forward? Because it's becoming more and more apparent to me, and I thought this after Tyrese was drafted, but then I kind of got away from it. Now I'm back on this train of, I'm not so sure that these two, in order for both of them to reach their full potential, I'm not so sure that playing them alongside each other is the best idea. So what I'm interested to hear from you, what do you think is the better style of play for this Kings team going forward?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. You know, according to Monty, they want to play fast. The team's built around playing fast. And I think that when the team plays fast, Darren Fox does really well. And I think Buddy Hield does really well. I think that both of those guys thrive in playing fast. They seem to shoot better. They seem to be more efficient. You know, there are some turnovers there, 5 turnovers tonight for Darren Fox, which is not great. 3 tonight for Buddy Hield. But then you look at guys like Tyrese Haliburton, and I know Richaun Holmes didn't play tonight, but it seems like those guys struggle when this team plays faster. So it's hard to extrapolate because we didn't see Richaun tonight, but I feel like he wouldn't have had a great game considering the speed at which they play, or maybe he would have had a good game and Darren Fox wouldn't have a good game. It seems like Buddy and De'Aaron's style of play fit what the Kings are trying to do right now, and Richaun and Tyrese simply don't.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting,
situation that the Kings have gotten themselves in here with drafting all these guards. They're all nice pieces, and I think that everybody agrees all these guys are good players and will continue to become better players. But I'm just not so sure what the long-term plan is here. We've talked about it a few times. Are they just collecting assets here so that they can make or put themselves in a position to make a big deal here? Ben Simmons' name continues to get thrown out there. But then I also, I read this article today by Clutch Sports, and I want to read you a little excerpt of it. This just came out recently by a report from Jake Fisher, who is part of Bleacher Report. He says, quote, "There remains no significant current discussion between the Sixers and the Kings. Fox and Tyrese are still deemed unavailable. Sacramento brass expect Gentry, Fox, and the Kings to recapture what led to their strong start themselves, as opposed to making any other stark personnel changes." So my question to you, Barry, is that the right move here from the Kings? Do we think that this team, as it's currently constructed, can put themselves back into a playoff position? Or is this just all smoke and mirrors?
It's so hard to tell, man. It really is. I think that in that story, I read that article too. They have some quotes from Monty, and he talks about the success earlier in the season that this team had and how he thinks that the team is capable of that and more. And he wants to get back to that. Whether they are able to get back to that is the question. They started out with a pretty rough schedule this year, and they did really well. I think they overachieved, in my opinion. Harrison Barnes was playing out of his mind. I don't know if that is sustainable or even possible to get back to that level. But I think this front office has been pretty consistent in the fact that, the ship is calm. Everything's calm for them. They go in, they say, Luke Walton's our guy. We're not getting rid of him. We don't want any more rumors about Luke Walton. Well, we're not that far into the season and Luke Walton's already fired. So, they could be telling these players now, you're not available. You're part of this team. We want to win games. We're not giving up on this season. But if they go off on another big losing streak, I expect that to change a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I also feel like, Monty McNair is taking a lot of pride in what he's done so far as GM of the Kings, right? We all know Luke Walton wasn't his guy. Now Luke Walton's gone. Alvin Gentry may not be Monty McNair's guy either, but I think he's trying to put the spin on it here of, we were really, really happy with being able to be in a position to draft Tyrese and to draft Davion. I think they really, and I don't know if this is going to be to their own fault, but I think they really are trying to put out the vibe of, we believe in what we've done here. We believe that this combination of players can work and can win, can be successful. There's still a lot of games left to play. So their backs are not against the wall here, in my opinion, of they have to make a deal tomorrow. Obviously, the more and more the losses pile up, more Kings fans want or demand a change out there. They demand better from the players. We heard Alvin Gentry himself say, we've got two options. We either play better or we play different people. Those weren't his exact words. I'm paraphrasing a little, but that's a real true statement. At some point, you got nothing else you can do, right?
One thing that really stood out to me looking at the box score is Tyrese Haliburton only had 9 shots tonight. That may sound like a lot, but 6 of those were 3-pointers. So he's been kind of changed into a spot-up shooter when he's not handling the ball. I know he had 6 assists tonight, but when he's not a pass-first point guard and Darren Fox has the ball, Haliburton's basically sitting in the corner waiting to take threes. I know they won this game tonight. I'd like him to shoot better than 1 for 6 from 3-point range, but it's really taken out a lot of his ability in the things that he can do on the basketball court.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of style of play. This team seems to be trying to play 2 different styles at the same time. And I look around the league, I don't see many other teams that are trying to do that. It's one thing if you bring in your first wave of bench players and suddenly the style changes because you're trying to match or orchestrate what those players do best. The Kings here, this is their starting lineup, and it seems like it's almost 2 different teams within the same team. So they got a great win tonight, and we're going to build off of that for sure. But man, it's a very perplexing situation here. Like I said, the Kings needed this win big time. They got it, and hopefully they can build off of that. But by no means have they fixed everything yet. They've got a lot of glaring issues. They gave up 120 points again tonight. Defensively, they were able to lock in for very key possessions here. They got some critical rebounds and stops. But also, like Barry said here, they also just gave up a ton of wide open threes, and they got lucky that the Blazers missed these shots. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight while Barry is away. We're changing up the format of the show here a little bit. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone out there. I want to get a shout out to Angel 2000. Angel, shots at Don Julio for your sorrows. Are you a Kings fan? I don't get it. The Kings won tonight. What sorrows? Fox needs to be it. I agree with that. I'm big fan of Darren Fox. I think his potential is through the roof. He's a tremendous talent, and I feel like Kings fans are going to. It's easy to say now while he's struggling that they're just going to keep piling on him. He's not good enough. We need to trade him, get Ben Simmons while he's available, all that stuff. But be careful, Don't live too much in the moment here. De'Aaron has gotten progressively better, no matter what, his whole career. And I just worry that Kings fans are going to be disappointed if they lose De'Aaron Fox and they see what he becomes somewhere else. Yes, you're a Kings fan, but for sorrows. Okay, well, cheers to that. Nobody likes to drink alone. I am going to be drinking alone tonight, though, because Barry's not here. So, all right, Barry, are you back? We have a little trouble here with the Zoom.
I'm back here. Sorry, I got kicked out of the Zoom call. As many of you know, I am in a secret location. I don't know if you recognize that court behind me, but I'm here for Thanksgiving, celebrating with the family. So I'm not in the studio for a couple days. We'll be live on Friday as well after the Lakers game. I'll be remote, and then I'll be back Sunday, back in the studio, back to have more fun with you guys. But back what I was saying about Tyrese Haliburton, I just feel like this kid is so talented and he can do so much on the basketball court, and taking the ball out of his hands just relegates him to a three-point spot-up shooter. I know he can still play awesome defense, but it just worries me that this guy, we're holding him back, not giving him the ball.
Yeah, man, I agree with that. It's a tough situation for the Kings right now because these guys are all really young too, right? So if you do make a deal and you end up sending one or more of these guys out of here, it's a real gamble here. You're gambling on, just like when you draft them, you're gambling on how good they're going to end up turning out to be. So, and that's why I'm still in the camp of I want Darren Fox to remain the guy on this team because he's been more proven than Davion Mitchell or Tyrese Haliburton. We already know he can score 25 points a game because he did it last year. So,
yeah, and what's going to happen here with Harrison Barnes and the foot injury? When is Rashawn Holmes going to return from this eye injury? I think everything will be okay. This Kings team is only 7-12. They're 2 wins out of the 7th spot. So it's not time to panic for this team. But there's some changes that could happen for sure.
Oh, wow. All right, Angel. I see you. I see you out there. Don Julio is a good tequila. All right, Barry. So let's talk about this bench. Sorry?
Can we talk about Marvin Bagley yet? I think that tonight was a great performance by him, but, it just gives me a lot more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is now the second game in a row where we haven't seen
Metu play a single minute. But Marvin came in and he played big time for them tonight. And Damien Jones as well. I see that, Ethan. Yeah, more minutes to him. I don't know. But right now, let's keep it on Marvin Bagley because you got to give this guy a lot of credit for tonight. I mean, we're talking about a guy who really has barely played at all this season, hasn't been able to get himself into any sort of rhythm, particularly offensively. And tonight, they really, really needed him because they had foul trouble. They didn't have Rashawn Holmes. Harrison Barnes goes down, who they play at the 4 a lot in certain situations. So for Marvin to come in and to be ready to continue to shoot when he's open, even though he hasn't hit those shots so far, my hat goes off to him. I'm really happy for him today.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job. 10 points, 4 of 6 shooting. He was very, very efficient. 2 3-pointers, 2 of 3, 8 big rebounds. I thought Marvin played a marvelous game tonight, especially for all the circumstances. But it just makes me think okay, well, we're playing the Lakers next. The Lakers are probably the biggest team in the league. Then we move on to play the Grizzlies and then the Lakers again. What does this mean for Marvin in the future? Do you feel like he's earned some more playing time coming forward? Because I do.
I definitely do. I think you can already see that. I mean, the fact that since Alvin Gentry has taken over, he's gone 100% to Marvin Bagley. We haven't seen Metu at all. Marvin has been the guy off the bench at power forward for Mo Harkless. He's definitely taken advantage of that opportunity, particularly tonight, and he's for sure played himself more into the lineup, I think. You know, whether this was Alvin Gentry really trusting him and feeling like he was the better option there at power forward, or it was a combination of head coaching change. The front office is still looking to try to make a deal for Marvin, so they want him to play more. Whatever the case may be, he's taking advantage of the opportunity, and he's definitely earning himself more minutes. I mean, we talked about how the Kings need just a little bit more production out of that power forward spot in order for them to be a competitive team night in and night out. Tonight, Mo Harkless, 24 minutes starting at the 4, 12 points, 4 rebounds. Marvin Bagley, 19 minutes off the bench, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 of 3 from 3. If the Kings can get that out of the power forward spot every night, that's going to be huge for them going forward.
Yeah, an entire 180 on this team. You and I, just a few weeks ago, were talking about whether we'd ever see Marvin Bagley suit up in a Kings jersey again, if we'd ever see him play for this team again. It seemed like he had been alienated by this team. He was not happy. You know, his agent was not happy. You know, over the past few years, we've heard about his dad and his dad not being happy, but I think that this is the first year we've really seen Marvin not being happy with this team. So we talked about what it means when Luke Walton gets fired. If he were to be fired, he ended up being fired. We talked about whether the rift was between Marvin and Luke or Marvin and Monty, because Monty seems to have a lot of confidence still in Marvin Bagley. As soon as Luke's gone and Alvin Gentry jumps in, Marvin is playing well again. It could be the speed of the game. It could just be due to not having Richaun Holmes tonight. But I think you got to give it up to Marvin. He stayed ready. You and I have always called out players on this channel when they're not playing well, and we praise players when they're playing well. And I think Marvin deserves a gold star for tonight.
Definitely. And you know, you just
seen the ball go through the rim, go through the hoop very much this season. So for him to come in and be 2 for 3 tonight from 3, including that really, really important clutch 3 at the end there, I think it's going to be a very big confidence builder for him going forward. And, you know, hopefully he continues this style of play, whether or not he's going to continue to be on the Kings after the trade deadline going into next season. You know, he could still be a really critical piece for them. We talked about it before the season started. He just has a lot of talent offensively for a guy his size to be able to space the floor, even put the ball on the floor a little bit, use him in the pick and roll. And it's something that they've been sorely missing at the power forward spot so far. So I really do hope that this continues. But I want to talk a little bit about Damien Jones as well. You know, we had a little comment here from Ethan. How about giving more minutes to Damien Jones? I was really impressed with him tonight. What do you feel? The Kings are already pretty well established at the 5 position with Richaun Holmes, Alex Len, and Tristan Thompson. Do you think there's more minutes coming for Damien Jones? And if that's the case, who's the guy that's going to be the odd man out here?
Oh, that's really tough to say. You know, this team is pretty loaded at the guard position, and they're pretty loaded, you know, with bigs on this team. I do have to say I'm really happy with seeing the team divide up the minutes a little bit more than they had earlier in the season. It seemed like there was only a few guys playing heavy minutes. Although the team had remained relatively injury-free, you know, to start off the season, I feel like those extra minutes really, you know, held a lot of guys down. It kept them tired. You know, it didn't allow them to flourish like they should have. So I'm happy to see the minutes being spread around. You know, I like Alex Len. I like what I've seen from him, but I love the athleticism from Damien Jones. I love what I'm seeing out of Marvin Bagley. I think that you have to go with the hot hand. You know, we have a lot of different options. We have multiple positions. I think you got to throw a couple guys out there, and whoever's playing well, keep them out there.
And that's not easy from a player's perspective. You know, I think you got to give all these guys that have rode the bench or played, you know, primarily from the bench this season a lot of credit, because it's really hard to establish yourself as a player, to be ready when it could be any night and you just might not get into the game. You know, that has to be in the back of these guys' heads a lot, but they've all stayed ready. They've all performed well when the Kings really, really needed them to. You know, Damien Jones was a perfect example of that tonight, as well as Marvin Bagley. And, you know, Tristan Thompson, we expect that from him. He's a veteran. He's played on all these different types of teams, you know, the best teams in the league, some of the worst teams in the league. He's been in deep playoff runs. He's been part of rebuilds. So a guy who has that kind of experience, you know, you sort of expect that mentality from him, that, you know, next man up mentality. He's always going to be ready. But I give a lot of credit to these younger guys, and maybe Tristan Thompson is having a big influence on that. Maybe it's the Kings coaching staff, you know, guys like Doug Christie. But they really have done a phenomenal job of keeping themselves ready to go when the Kings need it in big moments like they did tonight, losing a lot of their starters either before the game or during the game.
Yeah, and, you know, Marvin Bagley, just to touch back on him, this is a very tough position for him because he is in a contract year. I know, you know, being drafted number 2 overall, you've been paid more over your first 4 years than many players in the league, but he wants to get out there. He wants to show the world what he can do. And honestly, him playing well is good for him, and it's good for the Kings. Whether his success translates to wins on the court for the Kings or a higher trade value for him when he is potentially moved to another team, you know, Marvin Bagley playing well is good for everybody.
I totally agree 100%.
I want to hear from you guys out there in the chat. What do you feel about where the Kings roster is right now? Is Marvin Bagley a considerable option that we can rely on here? Do you want to see him traded still? Do you want to see more of Damien Jones? Shout out to Jeff. Thank you so much for the love, man. We always appreciate all you guys watching. Yeah, John, I think that it can be a Sacramento miracle if Marvin Bagley is able to repair his relationship, stay healthy, and continue to produce like this. That would be nothing short of a miracle, right, Barry?
Yeah, definitely. And also we have to point out this is their first win in Calvin's new favorite jerseys, the Sacktown City Edition jerseys.
That's right.
First win.
The monkeys finally off their backs.
And I see you got that gold jersey there, right? You trying to start a new winning streak, or what's going on here?
Yeah,
we're trying to start a new streak. We did it a little prematurely for the Philadelphia game. You know, we came on live right as the game was ending, and the Kings folded at the end of that game. And if you were watching, Barry threw the jersey off the table. But we've got it back now. Kings won. You know, we got the Kevin Martin jersey. We're gonna ride that into a win streak here.
What do you think was the biggest difference in Mo Harkless tonight? Because, you know, he got put back in the starting lineup just a couple games ago from Alvin Gentry. Gentry seems to have a lot more confidence in Mo Harkless, and he's simply been making shots. I don't know what he's doing differently, but it seems like a different guy.
Yeah, he does.
To me, the biggest difference was his energy. I really felt like from the beginning of this game, he was really focused. I feel like he's better utilized when they put him on smaller defenders defensively. His length, his ability to affect shots, you know, I really feel like that is the best way to utilize him on defense, is to put him on a smaller player. And then, you know, I'm not so sure how much of an impact it made, but he used to play for the Blazers. He knows these guys well. I could tell that he was fired up for this game, and especially, you know, you saw it when he got into Nurkic's face there in the second half. They really needed that energy tonight. And sometimes when you're struggling offensively, you just have to put every ounce of energy you have into defense, because that's what's going to lead to that next shot falling. You know, when you're missing shots, you can still control what happens on the other side of the court. And I felt like he just was really, he was very focused and really mentally ready for this game.
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about and praising defense here in a game where the Kings give up over 120 points again. But, you know, it was important. You know, the Kings, when they play good defense, their offense usually sputters. They played good offense tonight, and they were able to play some decent defense, a lot of contributions from different guys. And it's always tough, you know, going into a game, missing one of your best players, having one of your best players come out due to injury, and your best player getting ejected from the game. It really is a team effort. It's on the others to step up, and that's exactly what they did tonight to get this win.
Yeah. Without a doubt. RP here makes a good comment. Doug Christie working with Marvin Bagley, really shown today. He held his own against Damian Lillard in the corner late in the game. Yeah, that was a really, really important defensive possession there at the end. They forced a turnover. And I think you make a very good point here. You know, Doug Christie, we continue to hear how he has put a lot of time and effort into focusing on Marvin Bagley, Marvin's development, keeping him mentally, you know, in it with this team, ready to go. I think that he has been a miracle for Marvin Bagley, even though that this season hasn't necessarily gone the way that Marvin wants it to go. You can really tell, like this comment says here, that relationship is starting to pay off.
100%. You could see the poise from Marvin. You could see him ready. Obviously, he played really well tonight, so he has been working on his game on the sidelines. I don't know if you could say the same thing about Ben Simmons, but happy that I saw that from him tonight. And honestly, you know, seeing him hit that corner three and him running across the court, the passion, you know, the energy, the excitement, he was ecstatic to make that shot. And, you know, I feel like this, if you were to circle any game this season, this is the game where Marvin Bagley is officially back with the Sacramento Kings. He feels like he's part of the team.
Absolutely.
I agree with that 100%. All right, Barry, I got to get your take on this here, this Ben Simmons article that you sent me earlier today, because you did mention Ben Simmons. We'll get back to the Kings in a second. But this article here is titled, Ben Simmons is Broke. Howard Eskin, radio host for 97.5 The Game, says, quote, I was told by somebody very reliable he may be tapped out broke, cash flow broke. He just spends money like it's nothing because he thinks it never ends. This is a very interesting story here, because we see it all the time. These guys who play, they make a ton of money, then they retire. Maybe they retire a little earlier than expected, or an injury forces them out, and they're broke immediately because they are used to just having all this money coming in that they're constantly spending. Ben Simmons has, I think it's 3 houses. He just listed his New Jersey home for sale for $5 million. He apparently buys cars every month, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on those. Does this mean we're going to see Ben Simmons play a game soon because he needs some money?
Well, I think the official term is cash poor, meaning yes. His money is tied up in assets.
He has a cash flow problem.
Yeah, I don't know how much his mortgage payments are on these multi-million-dollar homes, but living in a $17 million home has a lot of expenses. Not only mortgage, you're paying property taxes, you're paying utilities. You know, we see a lot of these famous guys, once they make it, they want to take care of their mom and their cousin and their brother and the rest of their family. So he's definitely in a tough position here. I think hanging out with the Kardashians probably didn't help with his money management skills.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation. I think he could easily go out and get a sponsorship deal to help make up for some of these inefficiencies. But it sounds like he has a serious problem here, and he needs to get back to basketball very, very soon.
Yes, he does.
Owed $110 million on that contract. Man, it just the Ben Simmons saga just continues to get more and more ridiculous. All right.
Then he still gets paid in full.
Right.
What classifies it as an injury? Even if he were to undergo, MRIs and all this, we saw with the Kawhi Leonard thing with the Spurs, the team cleared him. He was ready to go. He didn't think he was personally ready. They didn't end up fining him or docking any of his paychecks, but that seemed to be the last time he was interested in being part of the Spurs team, as he was quickly traded to the Toronto Raptors during the offseason, and the rest is history. But it just goes to show that there's weird rules out there. Guys like KD, Klay Thompson can make a ton of money not playing any games, and Ben Simmons is kind of stuck here in the middle right now.
Yeah,
very, very different situation than those guys. Klay Thompson as well. Just really, really a bizarre, way that this whole thing is playing out. But our
are still paying Luol Deng. Luol Deng is being paid this season to not play. I don't think he's played in the NBA for like 4 years.
It's been
at this
a few
point.
years, yeah.
And I need to get me one of those contracts.
Right? Yeah, you see that every so often.
In all sports. I mean, the Bobby Bonilla contract still gets brought up. I think the Mets are actually still paying him $1 million a year, which is ridiculous, man. I don't even know when the last time that guy played was. But let's get back to the Kings here. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, let's get back to the Kings here.
At this point, do you try and work out a deal with this team? Do you try and do a buyout and say, listen, I am not playing for your franchise. You can either have me sit here for 4 years and see what happens. Even if they're not paying him, he still counts towards their salary cap. So he prohibits them from adding other talent to this team. I know when you're 25 years old, you've made $50 million in your career. It's hard to turn down $110 million, but he just doesn't seem to be interested in playing for that team. I just have to go back to the Marvin Bagley situation and have to say, how proud I am for the way that he's handled things as opposed to a guy like Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Well, a lot different when you haven't gotten that max contract yet, but I agree with you completely. Man, I know for a guy that young who likes, the flashy cars and loves to, when you're that young and you get that amount of money, that's such a life-changing thing and just really is a game changer for you. So the easiest way to make somebody like Ben Simmons want to come back and play for Philadelphia, hit him where it hurts in the pocketbook, right?
Yep, and no Embiid for a while too. So they're going to start losing some games, and things are going to get serious for them for sure.
That is
they're starting to spiral a little bit. So, John, I just want to bring up your comment here because I think it's a very, very good one here in the chat. It says, we still need a good young three for when the three-guard lineup is not working and Harrison needs some rest or he's hurt, something like that. If Marvin Bagley can be in the rotation, it leaves at least Mo to share some of the three spot. I agree with that comment completely. This is something that we've talked about all season long. The Kings are the thinnest in their roster at wing depth. Harrison Barnes has been great this year. He was great last year. But outside of that, they really don't have many wings on this team. Mo Harkless is probably the only, I don't really consider Buddy Hield a wing. He's a very specialized guard. He's not very versatile in terms of defending. You can't throw him on a bunch of different guards against. So it's a big problem for them moving forward. And they've doubled down on this guard-heavy lineup. We haven't really seen them play the 3-guard lineup a lot because they haven't rebounded well. They haven't finished off possessions. They haven't played defense the way that they want them to consistently throughout. Barry, are there any wings out there? I know we've talked about a lot of trade scenarios over the past couple of weeks here, kind of expecting some big deal to happen or maybe even a minor deal to happen. But do you think that the Kings need to add at wing depth, and is there anybody that you really like?
Yeah, I feel like the 3 spot has really been where they have needed extra depth on this team. You know, we talk about the logjam at the forward spot, the logjam at, the guard spot, or actually the center position, power forward position. The Kings have played a little bit smaller, having a guy like Mo Harkless play the 4, but with the emergence of guys like Marvin Bagley and Damien Jones, I think that they will be able to put in more minutes at that 4 and 5 spot and allow a guy like Mo Harkless to come off the bench and play behind Harrison Barnes. And I think that he does a wonderful job in that spot defensively. I don't know if he's going to have the offensive production that we need, especially when this Kings team goes on these offensive droughts where they just simply can't make a bucket. Mo Harkless is not going to be the savior on that team. I do have to mention a guy who just recently got called up, and he had a game winner for the Stockton Kings just a few nights ago, and that was Louis King. I saw him on the bench tonight. I know he didn't get many minutes, but he's another big body that's able. He can play that 3 position. He's a good shooter. I think he'd be another awesome option to have off the bench behind Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Louis King is a guy that can definitely score. We've seen the Kings struggle to score lately, even though that's supposed to be one of the better parts of their team. You know, we've talked about them being in the top 5 in scoring and in the top 10 in offensive efficiency, but lately they've really struggled to put the ball in the basket. So Louis King could definitely help with that. Oh, all right.
RP says
Davion is still best as a shooting guard. He looked a lot better today when Hallie or Fox were running the point. He was much more aggressive tonight. He was definitely looking to get to the basket. He was looking to score. He was looking to shoot. How do you feel about that, Barry? Is he better as a shooting guard? Pretty small shooting guard.
Yeah, he is a small shooting guard. I really liked what I saw out of him tonight, both offensively and defensively. CJ McCollum's a small shooting guard as well. So I think Davion, worked really, really well on him. And as you mentioned, he was aggressive tonight. I don't know if that comes into play, that there were some injuries on the Kings team, so maybe there was some more shots to be had for Davion. But for me, it's I haven't seen enough to say he's a better shooting guard than point guard.
Yeah, it's a really interesting
point to bring up, because I when I was watching Davion play alongside Fox tonight, that the defensive potential of that backcourt is really, really incredible. It worked great tonight because they could switch evenly off of guarding CJ and Dame. They're really versatile players, both offensively and defensively. I think there's a lot of potential for playing those two alongside each other. I just worry that if that's the case, it's great when Haliburton is running the point, because then he's looking to get other guys more involved in the offense, which means Davion is going to get more shot attempts. He has the ability to be more aggressive with the ball in his hands. Fox is not necessarily that way. I do think that once De'Aaron starts to get himself going offensively, he hits a few shots, he realizes that the defense is collapsing on him, he does start to then look for other guys and try to distribute the ball a little bit. But he definitely is a score-first mentality player. That's how he gets himself going. And I know Davion can kind of play off of that a little bit, but I'm a little hesitant to think that those two could work as a long-term starting pair together from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. And, I don't think Davion is a good spot-up shooter. I think he needs the ball in his hands a little bit more. And honestly, I really love that combination of him and Buddy Hield playing together. I wouldn't want to break that up. Not yet, anyways.
Yep. I agree with that.
All right, so let's focus on the Kings' next game. 1 win down. We're hoping they can get 2 in a row. It's a big one. The day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Kings-Lakers at Golden One Center. Barry, give me your first thoughts on this game. Lakers have been struggling.
Well, I think actually the last Kings game that you and I went to in person was against the Lakers in LA.
In Staples Center.
Yep, that was just under 2 years ago, which is amazing to think about. I'm here in a secret location close to Golden One Arena. I'm here for Thanksgiving. I'm a little bummed I'm not going to be able to go to the game on Friday night, but that's okay. I'll be here watching it. Maybe you guys will find me at a sports bar around town here. But as far as first thoughts on this game, like I mentioned, this Lakers team is a really, really big team. They've been dealing with injury concerns lately. We saw LeBron get suspended from an altercation with a Pistons player. So he seems to be determined to light a fire under this team and make them relevant again. I think that Russell Westbrook has finally gotten his stride a little bit. This Lakers team has a lot of talent, a lot of big-name players, but I think the Kings have a shot in this game. It'll be interesting to see if Rashawn and Harrison Barnes are healthy enough to play.
Yeah, that's going to be
one for me. The Lakers are maybe the most confusing team in the entire league to me. They're star-studded. They look great sometimes. They look absolutely awful other times. We know they've dealt with injuries. LeBron hasn't played that many games. He did come back today and hit a huge, huge 3 late in the game against Indiana. He's definitely going to be out there to prove a point to the league after they suspend him. So that's not good news for the Kings. But then you also see a stat like this. The Lakers have been trailing by 25 points or more in 6 games this year. That's the same number as the Rockets and the Magic, who have a combined 6 wins, I believe. I don't know what to make of this team.
It just shows you how talented they are, that they can come back from these wins. And that's one thing that really, really scares me about this team and about our Kings team is we've seen games where this Kings team has got up 15, 20 points in a game this season, and they've kind of coasted, and they end up losing some of those games. So, this is a game you need to take seriously. This is a game where everybody's got to be ready to play. I'm interested to see what we're going to get out of Marvin Bagley. I think he could potentially be an X factor in this game with some of the injuries and with how big this Lakers team is. I think he's earned some more minutes from his play tonight. And I'm really interested to see what this Kings team will get out of Marvin Bagley on Friday night.
Yeah, I agree. So
without further ado, let's jump into the keys to the game here for Friday night's matchup against the Lakers. My keys to this game are pretty simple. Number 1 is going to be turn them over. The Lakers are 29th in the league in turnovers at nearly 16 a game. Kings are trying to maybe play with a faster pace. I think they have an opportunity to get out and transition here and get some fast break points. They only had, I think it was 4 or 6, something like that tonight. 4 fast break points tonight. So they definitely need to take advantage of a Laker team that's still trying to figure out how to play with all these new pieces. Tyrese Haliburton can get in the passing lanes. They can get out and run. My second key is make the smart play when driving. The paint touches, points in the paint, have been huge for the Kings lately. 60 more points tonight in the paint. They need to continue to try to do that. However, it's going to be very difficult because the Lakers, like you mentioned, are a huge team. They're also 4th in the league in blocks at 6 per game. So when the Kings are driving to the basket, they need to make the easy, smart play. Hopefully Rashawn Holmes is in there. They can look for some easy lobs, things like that. My third key is going to be play fast and furious. They really need to push the pace in this game. The Lakers are 28th in opponent scoring, allowing 113 points a game. The Kings are coming off a 125-point performance. They finally started to hit their threes. This is a great opportunity for them to get in and score a bunch of points again.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I want to add one more key to this game, and I think that's going to be turning Russell Westbrook into a jump shooter. I think that is one of the Achilles heels of this Lakers team. And, I think that's a way to get them off of their game. He's such an amazing player. He's so good at getting to the basket. He's so good at setting up his teammates. It seems to be shooting, seems to be his weak point. He used to shoot consistently. I felt like there was a 3 or 4 year stretch where he was shooting really well. It doesn't seem to have traveled with him to LA. So I think you really need to make him a jump shooter. And then on your point of playing fast and getting up and down the court, the Kings need to get to the basket. They need to shoot a bunch of free throws, and they need to get some of these Laker bigs in foul trouble.
Yep. I agree with you completely.
Shout out real quick to Charlie Buttman in the chat, man. He is hilarious. I want to read a couple of his comments here. Bleep the Lakers, fading faster than LeBron's hairline, and deteriorating quicker than 80s ACL. He also says LeBron is questionable to play on Friday because of hair loss.
Well, LeBron see that. We definitely don't need to light a fire underneath him.
That's very true.
I think injuries are going to be really key on this game. Honestly, I think it depends on what happens with Harrison Barnes. Depends on what happens with Richaun Holmes. I think this is the first game the Kings have won, or maybe the second game the Kings have won with Richaun Holmes missing a game. He seems to be very important to this offense. And I have no idea what to think of this Kings team without Harrison Barnes, considering they don't have many other wings on this roster.
Yeah, health is going to play a big role in this game. Hopefully the Kings have some momentum on their side now, coming off of a big win in a tight game. They've got a lot to cheer about. The bench tonight was there's so much joy on all these guys' faces. I really love to see that. Tristan Thompson was all over guys. They were really, really happy for Marvin Bagley playing well, Damien Jones playing well. That big dunk at the end there for Damien Jones kind of lit the bench on fire. The Kings need that. They need this energy. They need to, like Alvin Gentry said, get back to playing with a smile on their face. Remember that they enjoy this game. For a young team, that's really, really important.
Yep. I want to hear your starting lineup on this Kings team. If potentially Harrison Barnes is out, and if potentially Richaun Holmes is out, I want to hear your starting lineup, Cal.
Oh wow. Well,
definitely Mo Harkless is gonna get the start again. I feel like Alvin Gentry trusts him from a defensive standpoint. He's played better offensively over the past couple of games. So I think as long as he's healthy, he was limping a lot tonight in this game too. I'm not sure whether it was his hip or an ankle or a foot or something like that. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. You could hear the broadcasters talking about it during the game, but as long as he's healthy, I think he gets the start. And at center, I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Len again, just because we know how big the Lakers are. Usually the Kings have countered big lineups with their big guys, Alex Len being the first one off the bench. So if Richaun Holmes is out, I expect Alex Len to start again.
I think Mo Harkless is going to get the start.
And Marvin Bagley is the first person off the bench.
Who are you starting at the 3?
Man, that's tough. Probably.
Buddy's got a ton of starting experience. It just seems like the easy call if you're the Kings to put a guy out there like that who can still spread the floor, still shoot. They need to get up and down in this game, and we've seen Buddy have a lot of success in transition when they push the ball and get him an open look from 3. So I expect it to be Fox, Haliburton, Buddy, Mo Harkless, and Alex Len if all of those guys are out?
This may sound like a wild take to you, but I might consider starting a guy like Marvin Bagley or Damien Jones. I think it would be a huge confidence booster for Marvin, and it might be a little, thank you for what he's done for the team tonight. I think if you were to lose a guy like HB, I might consider moving Mo Harkless to the starting 3. And I think Buddy Hield could bring a little bit more offense from what you're losing from Mo, and maybe Mo can make up for some of the defensive issues with Marvin. But, if Rashawn's out too, maybe we start Marvin at the 5. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a very interesting take.
Let us know in the chat who you guys think. If all those guys are out, Harrison Barnes is out, Rashawn Holmes is out, who's going to get the start for these Kings? All right, Barry, I'm going to let you get back to the festivities here. We all know you're in town to celebrate Thanksgiving. Mom, if you're watching, I'm sorry I'm not as good a son as Barry, and I can't be home for Thanksgiving, but I'll be home soon, I promise. Anything else you want to say here before we wrap it up?
Cheers.
F the Lakers. We like that. Thanks again for watching, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving to all you Kings fans out there from Royal Rebounds. I hope you enjoy a great meal tomorrow with your friends, family, and loved ones. We will be back live after the game on Friday, hopefully after we get a Beat LA chant going in Golden One Center. And as always, thanks for watching, and go Kings.